Perfect.
Ooh, right to 6 people.
Okay.
Hello, word nerds. Happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live chat. We are here talking about getting back into writing after a break, which is a topic very near and dear to my heart because I've been taking a break for a while. And I keep getting this like inkling of like, oh, I should start thinking about writing again. Not writing again, but like thinking about it, perhaps. So today we're going to talk about how to do that because it's a position most of us have been in, except for Leah. So that's where we're going to start. I had initially been thinking about like having the opening question be like, what's the longest break you've taken from writing? Or like, what does that kind of relationship to like breaks look like for you? So Leah, why don't you just start by setting the bar real high and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But it's probably not the best way to approach it. But I started.
There's no wrong answers or judgment.
Yeah. I started back in 2015 of like writing with the intention of getting published. And since then, I haven't ever taken a break per se. Like there've been times where I get stuck with what I'm writing. So it might take me like, well, it is taking me like 2 months to write a chapter. But like I'm not like setting it aside and being like, oh, I can't finish it type thing. It's just okay, I'll just plug along and write every weekend, but not right during the week or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for me, I haven't taken a break because I just like plod through. But yeah, so I don't know if that's the right way to approach it, but that's where I'm at right now.
Nice.
No right or wrong way. Kyra, how about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, I don't usually take super deliberate breaks. I've kind of like Leah had slower periods. Like, I moved a couple weeks ago.
I'm not counting that as a break from writing.
Yeah, no, it did not feel like a break. So like I've had periods like that where it's like, oh, I've not. Really
okay, so just I'm gonna like circle back here. What this chat is about is when you've like, for whatever reason, like you've had an extended break from writing where like the muscle is gone and it's hard to get. Not I had a busy week.
Oh, it's been like a busy month, first of all. No, for me, I don't know that I've ever really said like, oh, I'm just going like for more than like a week or two, and like I'm just gonna like sit.
Megan, these people are useless to me.
I got you. Don't worry.
I do feel a little bit like even like having had just kind of like a busy personal month. It's I'm at a point where it's like, okay, it's hard to kind of get back into the swing of things. My cat is here. Hi.
And we are so pleased.
Oh, even looked at the camera? Like,
like pose and I would really take it in. Just gonna sniff her eyeball for a minute. Please hold. Megan, how about you?
I usually write in like big spurts and then I take a big break. I do think there's a difference though between like a break you've chosen to take and a break that you kind of find yourself in.
A break that happens to you.
Yeah. And so like the big one I can think of, or the most recent one I can think of for me was like back in, I think it was end of 2018 or early 2019, my agent and I had split up, and it was quite shocking at the time. And so I was like, it's fine. I have a book to go out with because we were about to go on sub again. So I like queried it and it was 2020 and it was a YA fantasy. So you can imagine how that went. And then COVID happened and then my dad died and then my dog died. And so I didn't write for almost a year, I think, not seriously. And felt very much like I just wasn't having any ideas. And I would try, I would kind of like try to force an idea and then I'd try to get started on it and I would just hate it. And like I had no confidence in my writing anymore or in the world at large. And so for a long, like many months, I felt very much like, what if I just never have an idea that I like again, and like what do I do with that? But then end of 2021, early 2022, I did finally have another idea that I was excited about and was able to like come out of it. But yeah, I feel like that break felt very different from the I'm going to take a break to refill my well break.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking a break is just like a healthy, responsible decision that you make with a clear head and just like preparing your future self for success. That's a different thing. But that's also like that's worth talking about as well. But because it all like because that is a good idea. It's just not one that we all. I don't know. Not all breaks go that cleanly. Lots of people in the comments. I feel like this is one of the better turnouts we've had for a chat in a while. So yes, we already have some people sharing, but please, everyone, if this is something you've been up against or just something you're up against now, let us know. If you have any questions, we'll do our best. Misty Kate said, I've definitely been on a break since I lost a parent late 2021 and work has consumed me. So this is a good topic. Joe Catherine, I didn't write more than a few thousand words for the entire year of 2024. Andrew, I feel like I've had breaks from like styles of writing, but I'm usually still writing something else. That's awesome. Like if I'm not writing short stories, I'm still writing poems or a novel. And
I think when you're like in the middle of a break, it feels so like I'm not doing anything. I'm wasting my time. Yeah. But that's like such a good point, Andrew. Like it's so rare that you're not doing anything creative in that time. Like I was like writing poems in my journal and stuff like that.
Those must have been some angsty poems.
Unbelievably.
I was listening to the What If books just in the car ride home yesterday of like it's just like a comic artist poses like weird science questions. Like what if you put the universe our solar system was filled with soup up to Jupiter or something like that. They mostly go that way. But one of the questions had to do with like at what point in human history were there too many books in English for anyone to have been able to like read everything that's been written? So just kind of context, but like he'd come down to like he was averaging out like average writing speeds for people of like if you were Harper Lee, this many words, she only published one book, and then there's I think it was a Japanese author who had like submitted like a book a week to her publisher.
Oh my gosh.
For romance. So like that was the context of it, but it basically came down to things like a lot of the like average writers, it was like a couple hundred words a day. That is so doable. Like just so Leah's game plan had kind of made me think of that. And I think about this a lot for George R.R. Martin, honestly. Like it comes into my head a few times a year at least of like how much he'd had to write a day to have finished a book by now. So when I was writing a lot, I was definitely coming at it from like how quickly, like once I know what I'm doing, I was able to like write pretty quickly. But if I could like get into that headspace, that sounds really nice because you still get a book out of it. It's just, yeah, maybe it doesn't go as quickly, but then you don't have to take an extended break afterwards. Who knows? And Griswold, when I was dealing with grief following a death, then rolling into 2020, I didn't write for like a year. Whenever I felt an idea was good, I made a note. Oh, that's a very smart idea, but I wasn't in the mood to write or create. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I feel like I've been similar to Megan of like it's the lack of ideas. Nothing is like exciting me enough to like pull me back in at this point, but I think I'm going to lead with what my main advice was, and because I know Megan, reading was kind of your transition back in as well. Of like you started like reading a lot, and then suddenly you were writing again.
I think so. That whole year reading was definitely a bit of a coping mechanism, which had its pros and its cons.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did like I hit the end of the year, which was probably about when like I was ready to like re-enter society or whatever. And I had just been reading nonstop audiobooks too, just all the time, book noise.
Lest you be left alone with your own thoughts.
Yeah, not going to happen on my watch.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I would like definitely reading more this year. and last room as well. Like there's definitely some that are like, oh, this is inspiring me. I want to do something like this, or the like thing we all come up again eventually. It's like, I'm so inspired. I want to write. I wish I'd written this. What can I do to like capture this magic and make it feel like I want to write this. How can I make that happen? Or the also equally fun, I can write better than this. I should do this instead.
I'm gonna pull up my Goodreads because I think 2020 was also the year I started just reading a lot more of non-young adult stuff.
Des said, I went through a really long phase of what do I even want from life, where I didn't write for a long time. Now I'm just starting to get that writing bug again. Totally get that. Like, I feel like a lot of my like on writing is just also just like the state of publishing of like, why am I going to drag myself back into this?
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to like, because it's been a couple of years for me, but I want to like love it from the get-go. I don't want there to be any ulterior motives. Like I cannot go into it writing something with any hope attached to it. I have to just want to write. So
yeah, to try and
Which I think I'll
recapture
get
that
there.
from like the beginning of your writing journey.
doing it because I love it is what I'm aiming for. I'm not going to start back at like homework.
I think that's the magic trick, isn't it? Like once you've self-published or you've tried traditionally publishing or have traditionally published, it's like you know how hard it is and you know how much rejection it is. Or even if you don't, like sometimes it's hard to fathom because it's like we've been doing this for a really long time and it could still be a really long time. And so the hard thing is like, well, how do I want to do it anyway? Because I do love writing. I think I would write just for the fun of it, but that's not like, it would be so disingenuous to be like, oh, I will do this forever and ever and ever, even if no one else reads my books.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
Tessa says, my most productive writing year last year after 5 years of severe writer's block also came in the heels of a very sudden family tragedy. I think I use writing as a way to turn my brain off, and that is excellent.
yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe that's terrible advice and face your feelings or whatever, but I think it's solid. To each their own. Nicole says, reading also helped me want to get back into writing. 2020 was the first year I tracked the number of books I read. I wasn't writing. I told myself I was still learning about stories by reading. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like, I think that if you're in a writer's block of any kind, that's the best way to keep the muscle warmed up and not like fully come back into it being like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. And like, I can't imagine if I start writing again and it feels like the writing I was doing like at the beginning of my writing journey, that will be horrifying. And I just, oh God, I have to do all of this again. I've been talking about writing on the internet for 11 years and I have to just start from the beginning again.
Oh, could you imagine? I don't think that would happen.
No.
I know the first time I like send it off to any of you for like beta reading, it's going to be like, it's okay. You can tell me if it's terrible. I need to know.
Okay, I say that every time I send a book to someone and everyone instantly rolls their eyes and is like, come on. So just heads up, we'll do the same to you. I think that's such a huge thing. If you're like, if you are trying to write and it just is really, really stressful to you, your mileage may vary. For me personally, it's not productive to try and force it. And I feel really.
I think it's good to start to recognize like, when is it stressful versus when is it just kind of hard? I think for me, that's kind of the distinguishing, because like if you are rusty, I do think it's like intimidating, and it is like, you know, working a muscle that you haven't for a while, and like things that, you know, maybe would have come a little more naturally when you were in a more flow state. I have a cat here in my mouth. Oh gosh.
That got there.
Yeah, you could tell. My cat's really good at personal boundaries. There's a reason he's not usually allowed in the room when we do these things. feel like I was in the middle of a point. Yeah, but so like sometimes it is like just hard. Like, you know, you were using a muscle that you haven't in a while. But like if it's stressful, if it's just like painful to write, then I think that's where you need to reevaluate. It's like, does this break need to be longer, sir?
So what I'm hearing is that this is basically the same advice as the writing advice bracket, and we should be reading and writing and
Problem solved.
Yeah. If only, right? If only.
Right back to that content.
Andrew says, I definitely credit not constantly trying to get published. It's why I don't have serious breaks, because if it's one garbage page, no one will know or care.
Constantly trying to get published really, really, really affected the unintended break that I took. Just, I think I've said on the channel multiple times in the past, like, oh, I'm so afraid that like I won't get published, and it'll be because I didn't move fast enough. Like I didn't do something that was within my power to do when there's so little that's in your power. And now I just feel so like, girl, that's why you got burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can definitely put a lot of pressure on yourself with trying to write to publish traditionally. That maybe we could be kinder to ourselves if we alleviated some of that.
I like that this getting back after taking a break chat is turning into pro taking a break chat.
Well, I mean, I do find it interesting that for a lot of people in the comments, and also you, Megan, it was tied to grief that was like an extended break. And that like a lot of times people tend to think you should, you know, be better by a certain point, or, you know, even though they say like, oh yeah, grieving's different for everyone. But I think it's like a wake up call to lose someone. It really shakes up your life. So to me, I think it makes sense that when things like that happen, something that you put a lot of work into goes to the side for that time.
Yeah, for sure. I just remembered at the time that happened too, I had 2 books, the one I was still querying and the one I was working on, and one was about a girl trying to resurrect her dad, and one was about a family who can see the ghosts of their own family members. And I very distinctly remember being like, I'm not working on either of these ever again. Like I have not opened that other book to this day. Like,
yeah. So, as you guys are all talking about this, I think a lot about how, like, for me, like doing anything that should be like a hobby and joyful, it's hard to like just do in a void of like, I like Goodreads because it tells me I'm doing a good job, and like I need to get better at doing things just for me and not having to show people my work. And
but I think that comes from a very normal place of like art is sort of supposed to be like a connecting thing. Like it's not really like, it's in my mind the idea behind art is that like it connects us with other humans. And I've talked with my sister about this. My sister studied like social work therapy. She's a therapist now. She studied social work in school, and she a lot of her like schoolwork was on creative practice and like how that ties in with mental health. And so we've had some like interesting conversations about publishing and my mental health. But like one of the things we talked about is that like in a lot of other forums, there's just like the cat hair man. Sorry, I'm on my A game tonight. In a lot of other forums, like a lot of other media, there or like other creative practices, there's like these very natural, like even if you're not a professional, like social ways to share that. So like, you know, if you're in theater, you do community theater, or you do like, you know, like there's small venues at which you could like open mic nights if you're a singer, or like small local galleries if you're an artist. And not that there's none of that for writers. There, you know, like you can post things online and have maybe a local writing group or whatever, but like it is just a lot harder to do that in a way that you're connecting with other people at a like hobbyist or amateur level. And I think that is
100%.
hard because like we do like, I think part of wanting to create is like, yeah, it's fun to make something, but it's also the experience of like sharing that with other people that is what makes it rewarding. So I like, for me, I don't think it's like self-centered to want to like have people read the things you write.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole said, and comparing yourself to others when you know you're not writing is hard not to do. I feel like my Am I Enough No yardstick was the longest when I wasn't writing.
Mm.
I swear to God, all my friends started getting book deals when I was not writing. It's like, wow, cool.
Yeah. I definitely sit here being like, well, I am on a writing YouTube channel every week. I should write something.
Fan fiction is a good suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
Yeah.
The
I struggle
other,
with like the guilt. I have to like turn it off when I'm working on
Yeah.
it. Just the like opportunity cost mentality, even though that's not like I wasn't going to be writing anyway.
and it's hard too because like fan fiction is just like a different format. Sorry everyone for the cat, but
No apologies necessary.
Nope.
Oh, you're not going to show your
We
bum
have been
anymore.
blessed.
Nope. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Okay. Do you want to sit on my shoulder? You like that sometimes. Yeah. Well, so fan fiction is like kind of just a different beast than writing a novel, and like I'm a novelist, and so not that there's not like still like some creative joy to be had in writing fan fiction or like something similar to that, but it is like a very different muscle in some ways that it's like this is short form, like I'm not using my original character.
Doesn't have to be.
Not the way I do it.
I'm curious.
No, but I do have
Oh,
friends.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I have friends who are really into like short story writing, and that's just, it's not a form that I understand at all. It's not one that I'm good at. And so it's been more stressful for me to try to write a short story than to just take a break.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go next. Is like occasionally I'll be like, oh, what if I like get a prompt from like a writing like an open call for submissions of short stories, and they give you like a theme or like a word that you have to incorporate, and be like, oh, that would be a good way to actually get a short story written. But I haven't done that, so I was wondering if any of you or anyone in the chat has ever used that as like a way to get yourself writing, of like a contest mentality.
My friend Amelie really, really embraced that and is very like, oh, if she's in between things, she's like doing short stories and subbing them and getting them accepted because she's amazing. But yeah, so I know it works for some people. It's just not one that I've learned.
Yeah.
I think I need to read more short stories. It's like I have such a mentality around short stories. So it was like the ones we read in school of like they have to be important. I don't. It can just be a good time.
The other thing that's like, because I did have like the last couple of years were like not a break, because it would maybe even be relaxing if I'd taken a break, but they were just like great productive writing years for me. Like I just like felt like I was spinning my wheels a lot during those 2 years on things I was working on. But one thing that like I think I've mentioned on the channel that I did really like to kind of stretch those storytelling muscles in a way that wasn't trying to get published was I had a friend who invited me to join his actual play podcast. So like we're playing a role-playing game, so I get to like create a character and we kind of co-build this story together, and it's like tied to game mechanics, and it's not writing exactly, like it's very different in a lot of ways, but it was like a very good like, oh, I can do some of these things I really enjoy in writing in a way that's less pressure than what I'm doing trying to get published.
Yeah, it makes me think too of the mentality that we had before you wrote the book that got your agents, which was Beef and Cheese. Based off of a TikTok. I wish I could remember the guy's name. It's TikTok, so it just goes but I think his name was maybe Jeremiah. But he said he like pulled up to the Taco Bell and heard the person in front of him order a Crunchwrap Supreme with just beef and cheese, and how he found that like inspiring almost, that you would get like those are the two good parts, and it's like, oh, like yeah, like
just
don't
your
even
two
throw
favorite parts.
yeah, don't even throw a tomato on it. And so we like approached that for all of our next projects, I think. Just like, well, what's a project that if I didn't care about selling it, if I didn't care about whether my friends would like it, or if I thought all the people I query were going to love it and think that they could sell it so fast, like what's the project that I would write? And just anytime that voice pops up in your head that's like, you can't pull this off, or this will never sell, just being like, no, beef and cheese, like just this one, just for this book, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and so then the next one I can do it.
And this won't sell. I just feel like such different things. It's like my brain went to like, if I could like write like that, what kind of thing? Like I'd want to write like Hill House, or like I would set the bar higher of like.
See, but just why like, can't? Who's to say you can't?
Like, yeah.
Oh man,
I think you could. Like, yeah. Like it's not going to be that on the first draft, but it'll never be that if you don't write the first draft.
Yeah, but I think like bigger themes and stuff, that's where I'm going to spend like, even if I spend a year thinking about it, it's better than what I'm doing now. So.
Exactly. And it's the other time, you're having fun, you're doing something that's a challenge, like just
The other thing about that beef and cheese book that like got me my agent is that like I was like very much taking it as like it was almost like sort of episodic, because like I'd write a chapter and just like, what's some fun nonsense I can put in this chapter, and then I'd like send it to Megan and Aaron and have them read it. And so like also I think was helpful in that regard of just like not trying to figure out like it had to be a whole, because I think that has like when you haven't been writing for a while, the idea of like a whole book is kind of intimidating. Like that's a lot of words, and it did turn into a whole book, but it kind of started as like, let's just write a chapter in which some funny nonsense happens, and then I will write another chapter in which some subsequent funny nonsense happens, and that was like a good way to do it.
And you may be thinking to yourself right now, sure, I could pants and have the time of my life, but I'll hate myself come revisions. And I want you to know, Kyra barely had to revise that book.
That's true.
Nice.
No problem.
It came out so clean. Not a guarantee.
Not a guarantee. Your mileage may vary, but like that was one that was like, oh, maybe we should just have fun writing more often.
I have been thinking about like going that route and trying more of a pantsing approach on something like that, of reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which has been my big thing this year, and then I've been rereading the Mercy Thompson series, which is like an urban fantasy series. It's on like book 14. It's been going for a long time. And like they both have such big worlds with a lot of people that kind of like, you might not see them for a couple books. They're just kind of mentioned here or there, but everyone feels really established and there's a lot going on. And Matt Dinneman, who writes the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, I believe he's like a pretty big pantser, but like really documents all of the like things he leaves open for himself. And I think that sounds like a lot of fun of like, I don't need to know exactly where this is going yet, but like introducing characters and knowing you need to pick them up at some point. Like if you're tracking things and you don't want to like just like leave a bunch of loose threads everywhere, like I can track things in a spreadsheet, no problem.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So like you can just put in a thing because it's fun and know you have to like resolve it later, but it doesn't have to be now. Like
Crazy Foxy said, I think that world building might be how I get going again. Maps, languages, culture, etc. I reviewed my notes from a Neil Schusterman in-person class I took about 10 years ago.
I love that idea too. Like, and I know it's something I could totally get lost in, but it's the kind of thing where eventually a piece of a story will kind of take shape and you can build it out from there.
And it's just so like, if you're taking a break already, it doesn't matter if you take a lot of time to get like, there's almost no world where you're going to wake up and be like, and break's over. Now I'm going to write 1,600 words a day until the book is done. Like, you have to get warmed back up.
Yeah. We've already compared this to like muscles a lot, and like it's a lot like exercise of like you're never gonna like, oh yeah, wake up and be like, this is the day. You might, but then the next day you're like, okay,
you don't need this chat anyway.
Yeah.
If you do somehow come back and you're just like 1,600 words, bam. I love that for you. You don't need our help.
Yeah. I feel like I could do that, no problem, but then I would take another year off starting day 2. Like,
yeah, I do have a lot of like world building detail notes in my notes app for like writing ideas, where it's like just a little thing. Like, it's not something that you can build a story out of, but like eventually I'm going to circle back to it and maybe a story will come of it, or maybe I'll incorporate it into another story. But I do like having that with the world building ideas, because otherwise I'm going to forget them.
I love how many comments we're getting in the chat of just like, it feels like this is something a lot of people have come up against. I don't know, it's something we all come up against, even in just like what Kyra had this week or this month, of like, we all have to nudge ourselves back into it more times than we want to admit, and every time it's going to look a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like maybe we have a little turned this into a pro taking a break, which is great. We also need that. But I am trying to think. So like, okay, I'm in this position where I have barely even opened my Word doc in like a month, which for me is like a pretty substantial break. But just thinking about like, okay, so what are my next steps to kind of like get back into things now that I've moved and my life has calmed down a little bit? Do you notice that he like starts being more annoying when I start talking?
Yeah, when it's you specifically.
Yeah.
Like,
sir.
Maybe thanks for talking to him. Like, he does not understand the general.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Put the headphones on
anything.
him. I want to talk to him.
This cat is not being invited back to future chats.
Aww.
You kicked him out last week and he's back already. He's fine.
I didn't try to let him back this week. He just got in. My next steps. I was just thinking about like, I had this time where my dad's a skier, not like a super intense skier, but he has like, that's something he likes to do. So he's like tried to teach all his kids to ski with like varying degrees of success. And one time when he was like taking my sister and I to try and ski, like we get out there and like we get our skis on and everything. And my sister's just like, she's just like suddenly like gets very like intimidated by the idea of skiing. Like she's been 1 or 2 times before. It's not like totally new for her, but she's like, Dad, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go skiing, sir. and my dad is like, let's just go look at the hill. We're just gonna like go out there. We're just gonna like look at the hill. And it was like kind of this like funny thing that's like, yeah, we're just gonna go look at the hill. Like, there it is. There's the hill. But it like did work. Like we went out there and we looked at the hill, and my dad's like, okay, we're looking at the hill now. Do you just want to like go up there just on the little like kids lift? And my sister's like, okay, we can go up there. I'm gonna go real slow down the hill. And that's like just what it is though. Like you open the dock. For me, that's like what looking at the hill is. You open your dock, and sometimes you open your dock and think, nope, not today, Sane, and you close that dock again. But like, then maybe next time you open it, and it's like, okay, I'm here. It's less scary than when it.
Even if it is equally as scary to what you thought of, like, but you've already looked at the hill or gone a little bit up the hill.
Yeah.
Of like, if it's something you want to do eventually, you're gonna have to do those 2 things again. Like, you've already done part of it.
And the great news is writing is substantially less dangerous than skiing. So
Yes.
I have yet to meet anyone who's broken any bones writing a book.
Unless they were researching skiing to write a skiing book.
Yeah.
Very true.
I think last week, Nicole, you mentioned possibly wanting to do the artist's way. And so I was looking into that this week. It's just the book, right? Like you just have to buy the book and do the stuff that's in it. Let me know in the chat. Because I feel like that's a very like that ties into all of this really well.
I was thinking that earlier. I couldn't find a way to make it like make sense as like advice or anything, but like I love working collaboratively, and it's something that like writing doesn't have, and it's like you need something to start on unless you're actually like co-writing a book, which I don't know. I can't see it. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, having some sort of project is a great way to get inspired, or like ways to having a writing group or anything like that.
Yeah. But Nicole confirmed it's just in the book. I want to make sure because there were like some people who offer courses on it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is all just in the book, and they're charging you $300 to watch you do this. Yeah, I feel like that'd be fun. I'd like to do that with you.
I'm looking it up now.
It's all about just like being creative and like.
I've definitely seen this book before.
Yeah, I've heard it talked about for ages.
I am
4 million
curious about
copies
this
sold.
blurb contest though.
Yeah.
Was it like you come up with a blurb, or like they give you a blurb and then you write? I'm curious.
I think my biggest goal at the start of the year was just, like I want this year to feel really magical. I want, whether or not I get publishing success or I write a bunch of books or anything like that, I just wanted to like have fun doing it and feel like I was making, not like fun just happened to me. Like I stumbled into a fun idea, but like that I was doing things in my life that would kind of create this feeling of magic and joy with the creative process. And so I broke that down into like, I've picked up crocheting, which is something that I will never try to monetize. So it's something creative that is just fun, and trying things like this book where it's not teaching you how to write, but it is teaching you how to like foster creativity. And I feel like so far I've felt really good about how the year has gone because of that.
Good.
And trying to read more physical books. I love audiobooks, but my physical book reading muscle did get really weak. So I've been doing a pretty decent job at that again.
That's interesting, Nicole, that they're just like, write a blurb and then we'll choose the one that wins.
Oh.
It might be a fun, like, I don't know, word nerd chat one time. We all just show up with a blurb for
Yeah.
something.
I think something else that I've maybe tapped into lately, we'll see, because I have not actually written very much of this, but it has been, like I said, last year was kind of a rough writing year for me in a lot of ways. And this is kind of the first thing that I've been like really excited about in a while. Is a little thing that I am probably going to write out of spite.
I mean, technically, weren't you writing out of spite last year too, but in an angry way?
I don't know. Unless, I don't know. I was
not in a fun way.
I was angry, but I wasn't writing out of spite. I don't know. But like, yeah, like this idea I have is kind of born out of just like a lot of frustration with like the state of publishing and like particular like late stage capitalism and its effects on publishing and like just things.
Sure.
Yeah. to that nature where like it feels a little cathartic to just be like, I am not having a good time in publishing, and I will make it everyone's problem. Not everyone's problem. It would have to get published, ironically, for it to be everyone's problem. But I'm going to make it someone's problem.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it was kind of a thing to do. Like apart from that idea, I've just had like other moments of just like the projects that are calling me right now, just kind of with the state of the world, have been ones that have been like a little angrier. And I think that's kind of useful to consider too, is like the last time, you know, we had that beef and cheese project that we were talking about, that was like the absolute fluffiest escapism project anyway, which I think is what I needed at that time. And right now I think I need to write something angry. And so like, I don't know how you figure out which of those you need to embrace, but maybe you just know. Maybe you wake up frothing with hate in the morning and you think it's time for an angry book. But yeah. So I guess also thinking about like what emotions are going to be most helpful for you to try and like tap into and dwell on. Do you want to pursue something that's maybe just a little more escapism and just like, I'm going to put all of my favorite tropes in this and just like have a good time, versus like, I'm going to write this thing that is going to be cathartic? Because those can both definitely be ways of kind of doing like I'm going to try and like put the market aside for a minute and just like write something that's like, feels good to me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been so much like solid advice tonight. I'm like, are we wise? Or is this something that just like all writers face at some point, and it is, yeah, in this together.
Yeah. I feel like it's tricky. Like if you're not writing because of grief, that's a very obvious. And be like, I'm not writing a book right now because my dad died. And it's like, was that really the whole reason I took a break for as long as I did? Because I was kind of breaking a little and then he died. But when it's not grief, it can be kind of tricky to nail down. Like you were mentioning, you needed an escapist one and now you kind of need an angry one. So I'm curious, like if you have any advice for finding or diagnosing what emotion you need to like face to counteract it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I know. I can kind of tell you the state of mind when I started both of those projects. And the first one, the beef and cheese project, that was just like very escapist, was just like I'd had a real bad time with querying over the previous 2 years. And I'd kind of gotten to this point where I was like, I want to write something. Like I'm really itchy to create something, but I just like didn't feel like I had a lot of ideas. Like I was just like kind of that thing where you're like hungry and then nothing in your pantry looks good. Like that's where I was at with the writing. Yeah. And so I just had like the absolute bare bonesest of a concept. And I took that to writing group with an unhinged PowerPoint. Megan and Aaron were there. And I think I also just was like trying to find a way to make it fun. So I just was asking like, hey, what are some of your favorite romance tropes? And I just like put a list of like romance tropes together that I'm like, these are all really fun things that I like. And like, it was almost the challenge of it was like, how many of these can I work into this? And I was like thinking about that more than I was thinking about any sort of semblance of normal plot structure. And just, yeah, like, so that's kind of the mental state I was in then. And then I don't think it's real hard to imagine how the mental state has been lately with, I've actually been having an okay year in a lot of ways. But just like the state of the world has been like a lot lately. And I'm also still not having a great time in publishing again. Like my book is like dying on sub and whatever. But yeah, it was just kind of like, I don't even know that it was like just in general, like I'm waking up and feeling angry, because it hasn't necessarily been that, but I just, when I was thinking about like where my mind was kind of ruminating when I was like thinking about ideas, a lot of it was just like feeling like I wanted to kind of revisit some things that I was angry about. Like not just this one idea, but like sometime in November. I'll let you maybe guess when in November. I was just kind of like lying there thinking about this book I'd written years ago that has just kind of been shelved for a while because I couldn't just quite find the right angle for it. That also was kind of like an angry dealing with something book, and was like, maybe I feel like I'm in a headspace to revise that. And I haven't gone back to do that yet, but just the fact that like those were the things that were kind of calling to me, I think was what helped me diagnose of like, maybe this is where we're at for a bit.
Bit of a side note. So I finished Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Lang, and it is a really good I'm angry at the system book. Of like, if you need to feel that.
We'll be getting a few of those the upcoming seasons.
It's also like, the main character is like part of the system, so it's also a lot of like discovering you're part of the problem, a lot of deconstructing religion. I don't know, highly recommended.
Nice.
And coding. They have it all.
My issue with a lot of those, and why like I'm so flirting with reading the new Hunger Games book, but like those books don't make me feel better.
Yeah. I've seen the faces of people who finished reading the book and then posted about it on Instagram. Yeah. I think I gotta wait a little before I can read that one.
I haven't even read the last one. It's just like
no, same.
I watched the movie for the last one. I wasn't that interested in reading.
Yeah, I wasn't.
No. Okay, I know you did that. Gives me a bit of permission to do it. So like it feels like I don't know. It's a Hunger Games book. It deserves like.
Right.
I'm sure the book is going to be better than the movie was. It's just I don't know. Like dealing with the deaths of children was easier when I was a child. Now that I'm an adult, I'm like, this is horrible.
I rewatched all the Hunger Games movies probably like 6 months ago. So good. Like so good. But it was a very different experience reading them or watching that again at 33 than it was watching it at like 21.
Yeah, I reread the books last year when Emma did. And like I really enjoyed the experience, but like I already knew the horrors. I had really like digested everything. Like I don't know if I'm ready for new horrors.
New horrors.
Maybe that is like a chat we should do at some point of like writing in the horrors of just like Andrew's advice is really good. How do you write when the world is the world?
Indeed.
Do we know anything about that? It was like we could do that.
We're gonna give ourselves some more time to like figure it out, and then once. Yeah, right there with you, Tessa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing at earlier with Tessa's comment.
Yeah.
I said I want to read that book, Kelly, but I still cannot put any books on hold yet. I have 12 more books to read before I can put anything on hold again.
I did just put The Artist's Way on hold in my library, so I'm ready to jump in as soon as I can. I wonder if this would be something to do the Fable book clubs that let you
I was wondering that.
Yeah. Like we can go in our own pace, but like comment on the chapter that we're working on. It's like Nicole's got the book now. She should be able to go.
Yeah.
And like we could even do something like that in the Discord or whatever, but
yeah. I think just overall, we talked a lot about being very pro taking breaks, but it just does feel very much like if you find yourself in a break that you're having a hard time getting out of, you just need to like maybe listen to that a bit and not be afraid to extend the break if that's what you need in that moment. And that doesn't mean you're not doing anything creative. You could be picking up a new hobby. You can be reading. You could be not reading and not writing. I know we've talked a lot about like, well, if you're not writing, then be reading. You don't have to be. Like, there's lots of other creative things.
You can show up here and listen to us talk about reading and writing, and I think that counts.
That's like half reading and half writing.
100% success.
Yeah.
I think this is something I've maybe mentioned on the channel, but the further I get into this little adventure, I think there's so much power in learning to kind of diagnose like where you're getting stuck or why you're getting stuck, or just like getting in tune with, and not just about like taking a break versus not taking a break, but like
There's like you're kind of like why you're getting stuck. Well, the door doesn't go that way, honey. So
oh boy. But so like yeah, and that could be like, you know, whether you're trying to figure out like what your writing schedule is going to be, or just like anywhere you're getting stuck, learning to kind of diagnose and work around like, but for specifically like, should I be taking a break now, or do I need to like kind of, you know, button chair, get back to writing? I think it is like one of the best things you can do is just learn to diagnose like why is the break happening? Is it because I am burnt out and need more time, in which case take more time? Is it because the mountain looks scary and I just need to go like look at the hill, and that's like the next best course of action? Is there like, you know, am I working on the wrong thing and maybe I need to pivot to something I'm more passionate about? That's not an easy skill to learn.
No.
Especially because we come in with all these like preconceived notions of like, you know, this is what I should be working on, or this is how I should be working. That's really hard to like turn that off and actually just like listen to what your mind or body or whatever is telling you. My cat is so like, why is he trying to, anyway?
Yeah. So while she may not have passed it on to her child there, I'm convinced if nothing else, Kyra is wise. I don't know about the rest of us, but Kyra is wise.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
It might be skipping a generation. We'll see.
I assume it's so the cat's name is Cat Brecker. He is named after Kaz Brecker, criminal mastermind, and I think naming him that was just like assured he would be one of the dumbest creatures in existence.
but so pretty.
It is cute, yeah.
Andrew said, I hope this was helpful to you guys because you've talked about feeling burnout from writing while being on the channel, but we also show up every week to see you even when we're not writing. Absolutely.
Aww.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Talking about all this stuff with you guys, comments people, but also you guys, is all, I don't know. It means a lot. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
It's good to just turn ideas around and problems around. And
I think it is like helpful because we do have these ideas of like, this is how I should be feeling about writing, and this is how much I should be producing. But I think it's actually very nice to just get in a room and be like, oh, you all didn't write for a while after this, you know, major traumatic experience. Not just me. Great.
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. That, cool.
Yeah.
So Kelly, I'm curious, how long has this break been in your mind, like that you've been on?
I don't even know. Because like for me, like it's been a lot based around like grief stuff as well. But like that stuff's been going on for like 5 years. I don't think it's been that long. So I don't know.
Is Megan trying to figure out when you stopped coming to writing group?
You stopped coming to writing group December 28th, 2021. Because I have a message from Kyra that I saved that says, me totally respects Kelly needing a break. Also me, but that's my emotional support, Kelly. And I was like, I'm gonna
okay, so maybe it's been like a really long time. But
yeah, time just moves differently. I've like
especially pandemic
I'm becoming
time.
really convinced that time moves differently for every person, just based on what's going on in their lives. And yeah, time is just weird. When COVID hit, didn't we do a writing in the apocalypse chat? I feel like we did.
That sounds like something we do.
So yeah, so kind of like this, my break has been going on longer than it really felt like, but also the horrors have been going on longer than
they've just been going nonstop. since before you started your break. So
Yeah.
I do feel like I was still writing a bit. Nothing like solid back then.
this is basically 2022. So you've gotten well through the pandemic, through the most disorienting parts, at least.
Yeah. Because I feel like it maybe helped a bit that like early pandemic when we were all like adjusting to more work from home stuff and people schedules being different.
We were hanging out a lot.
Yeah, that helped us, I think.
A lot, yeah. My son's gotten really into playing Animal Crossing lately because he can read now, so he actually knows what they want from him. And he's really into looking at how many hours he's played. And then he looks at mine. He's like, I needed 500 hours. It doesn't feel like that, but I know I did. We were all just playing Animal Crossing back then.
Megan and I found some like screenshots of this on my Switch a while ago and had totally forgotten we did this. When we finished our book, we had like a party in Animal Crossing where we dressed like our characters.
Yeah. My birthday party was also in Animal Crossing that year.
I remember the birthday party.
Yeah, that was fun.
Should we all start playing Animal Crossing again?
Probably. Except for now, a 6-year-old has ruined my island.
I still remember one of Kaylin's kids like went in and like decimated all her trees.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about how old they must have been at that time, and it was like maybe 2 years older than my kid. Like, he hasn't quite realized he can chop down the trees yet. He's just made it really cluttered.
I got into Animal Crossing during COVID, like many people, but it was on my brother's Switch. Like he was the one who had a Switch. So he was nice and he let me make a little house on his island. And then he let our sister make a house on his island. And my sister like somehow managed to be bad at Animal Crossing. And my brother was like, do whatever you want on the island. Just like, don't cut down the tree in front of my house. She cut down the tree in front of his house. And I just happened to be in the room when she did it. And she was like, oh no. And she went and like planted, she like cut down an apple tree and like went and replaced it with like a pine tree. And she's like, he probably
How
won't
would they
notice.
know?
Like, yeah, it's like, and I also happened to be in the room. I was just always in that room because it was COVID. But when my brother got back on and he like opens the game and just immediately is like, did Miranda cut down my tree? Yeah. Did you notice because instead of a full-grown apple tree, there's now a baby pine tree there? Is that what gave it away?
Nicole said in the chat, when I wasn't writing, I still showed up to every Sunday live stream because you all are my writing friends. I knew you wouldn't care if I wasn't writing, and community helped me still feel connected. I've very much felt that as well. Like, I think it's no secret that I got extremely burnt out and wanted to quit everything and run away back in like 2021-ish. And yeah, I think if it wasn't for the live chats, I probably would have just like been like, I can't do it anymore. I'm done. But I love the live chats. Like I love talking to people, especially once we stopped trying to like expand and we were like, we're good. Like we love new people, obviously. If you're new, please don't go. We love meeting new people.
If you lucked into time, you were meant to be here.
Yeah, there was a period of time where it was very like, we got to grow the channel, we got to expand, we got to do all this, and that was really stressful. And the second we stopped trying to do that, it just felt so like, oh no, this is fun. This is a safe place where we can just hang out and talk about writing. And it doesn't really matter if you're not writing right now, or if you hate publishing right now, or if you haven't read anything in a couple months. It's just like, we know you'll get back to it. We love it too. Like everyone's gotten back eventually. So.
Yes. Also, I love that Andrew immediately hopped on Crazy Foxy's like, I don't feel like I have permission to write. It's like, you have permission. I'm giving it to you. Because my first question was like, why do you feel like you need permission? Like,
Andrew's like, whatever, you got it.
Well, we're at pretty much the hour mark.
Oh, yes. sorry, Nicole, I did see. I love that idea. Nicole said, I'll read the first chapter of The Artist's Way and brainstorm strategies that could work for the community to share and cheer for each other. Then everyone can vote on which method they like.
I love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
So next week will be a write-in, as per usual.
Actually,
Quarterly chat.
We had a bye week earlier this week because life got too hectic. And normally we would just adjust everything, but it is the end of the quarter next Sunday. So we're going to do our quarterly chat instead.
Yeah, I think we've got like a decent amount of like fun things to report back on, and like
I think so.
And then after I'm excited about the chats we're doing in April. Cannot remember what they are.
I have them pulled up.
But get excited.
We're gonna do one of them is for sure. Yeah, dissecting a book we love. So we're gonna do a write in the first week, and then the next week we'll be dissecting a book we love. So we'll pick that within the next week.
Maybe we like switch. Why don't we? What's the other one?
Yeah, let's swap them. Yeah. We'll swap them and do it at the end. The other one is bookish PowerPoint night. Everyone needs a PowerPoint about some books you've loved recently.
Get ready to hear all about Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yes. Okay, so we'll swap those. So we do bookish PowerPoint the first week. Or the second week, that is. The first non-write-in week.
Nicole said, bye, everyone. If you thought about sad times tonight, remember the future can still be bright. Will be bright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The future can hold many things at once, including happy things. So
good things can also happen.
Yeah. 2025 motto.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. This was a really lovely chat, and I super appreciated it. We will see you all next week, and love all your faces. Bye.
Even though we've never seen them. Bye.
Love them. I don't need to see them. I know.